There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
Mamma Mia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on.
From Mamma Mia, I'm Kate Langbroek and you're listening to No Filter. My guest today surprised a lot of people when he walked into the Mamma Mia office, which consists mostly of women. Some knew who he was and others had absolutely no idea, but everyone definitely had the same thought. What is he doing here? Nicho Hynes, or Nicho, as he's known, is a rugby league player. He plays for the Cronulla Sharks in Sydney. And also, he looks a little bit like Heath Ledger.
And Nicho Hynes loves a crowd cheer. He loves to get the crowd on their feet.
Can Nicho Hynes, in his second game in the Shire, be a Cronulla hero? He got it! Hynes the hero!
Footy players are heroes in Australia. Fans live and breathe footy. They watch all the games. They talk about it at work and in their group chats and forums. So, as you can imagine, Nicho can't really go to the shops or the beach without being spotted, particularly because he lives in the area that he represents in the NRL, Cronulla. It also doesn't help his anonymity that he's 6'2". I'm so happy I was able to sit down with Nicho because outside of being an incredible athlete at the top of his game, he's a remarkable man. Nicho played his first game in the NRL at 23 years old in 2019 for the Melbourne Storm, which footy followers will know is pretty late to debut. He really had to fight to get where he wanted to be. And 3 years later, he won the best player in the whole league, the Dally M, by a record amount of points. That was 2022, and even now telling you about it, it gives me goosebumps.
5 years ago, I was sitting at home watching this and I was only dreaming about being here. I didn't even think I'd ever be here, and I didn't walk the easiest journey to get here and had some tough challenges growing up, and now I'm in a privileged position to give back and hopefully influence some people who have been in my position who are walking a tough journey right now to hopefully inspire them to be here where we're all standing here today.
But it was far from easy. And being one of the best in the world at what you do takes more than physical strength and training.
I was a serial overthinker, big stress head. I just used to go to bed stressing over the stupidest shit. And
like what?
What people are thinking about me, what the social media is saying about me, or news articles, or just like anything in life, like just random ass stuff.
Nicho grew up on the New South Wales Central Coast, mostly with his dad, brother, stepmum and stepsister. But he also lived on and off with his mum. In this conversation you're about to hear, I asked Nicho about his mother, who he adores and is hugely and publicly devoted to. When Nicho was between 5 and 12, his mum was in and out of jail. Then a few years ago she was charged with drug supply when a family friend died of an overdose at her home, and that made headlines. It was a dark time for Nicho and his family.
I thought I was a lot stronger and tougher than I was. When the court case came, it dropped me like a sack of potatoes, to be honest.
Nicho has faced a lot of adversity to get to where he is now, and it isn't just because he's physically trained hard. It's because he knows who's important and what's important, and that what includes his mind and only controlling the controllables. Here is Nicho Hynes. Here you are as a man who plays footy on the biggest women's media network in the country. Now, tell me why you think you're here.
That's a great question. I was just walking through the offices and there was a lot of girls.
A lot of girls, you noted.
I did know.
Ding!
Yes, someone might have heard a bit of my story and me being real, I guess. So
yes,
I think that's maybe why I'm on here and to tell a bit of a cool story, I guess.
And because a lot of women, not just women, but men probably are more likely to be familiar with you and your story. And then there's women like me. I knew of you vaguely through my son, who knows NRL through his great mate Cooper. I just want to share this with you because when I knew that I was going to be talking to you, I said to Lewis, my son, and we're in an AFL state, Cooper's a Queenslander. Right.
Okay.
So that's how he got Lewis into NRL. And I said to Lewis, can you ask Cooper about Nicho Hynes? Do you want to know what he said?
Let's do it.
Really good guy. And he's had a tough life and went the long way round to get where he is now. Very passionate about mental health, especially after losing mates and one of his previous coaches. Also very, very good player and proud of his background. One of the great guys of rugby league.
That's nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
That is beautiful, yeah.
Is that a good summation of you, Nicho Hynes?
Yeah, I'd like to think that's what I am and who I am as a person and what I'm trying to be as a human being before an athlete. And yeah, if people are saying those nice things about me, I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
He said you've taken the long route. Can you just give us an idea of what that long route was? Because I know you were on the sidelines for a long time of your passion.
Yeah, I've played under 16s, 18s and 20s at the Manly Sea Eagles, and I thought it was just all going to happen after that. And they were going to sign me for a couple of years to be with the top team. And
how old were you then?
18 or 19.
Right, yeah.
And usually like the under 20s competition was called the Holden Cup, and you follow around the NRL team throughout Australia, playing in the big stadiums, and the next jump is usually to go to first grade. And
right.
I was thinking, how good is this? You know, I'm at the Sea Eagles, following around the NRL team. I did a pre-season with the NRL boys. I was ready to go, and then I ended up getting injured, and the team wasn't that great that year, and they sort of pulled that contract away from me. And look, I'm not blaming them at all. It's just that's just how it is. It's a business, and it didn't work out for me there. And
what was your injury?
Did ligaments and broke my hand. So my wrist, my hand, ligaments all through it. So I was out for about 3 months, and so I missed a big chunk of the year.
Yeah, right.
And didn't have any options really, and I had to go up to North Queensland for a couple of years.
Oh, that's when you went to Mackay?
Went to Mackay to chase a dream and spend 2 years there chipping away at it, and it wasn't really working for me, and I eventually ended up getting signed by the Melbourne Storm and went down to Melbourne, and so I debuted at 23. I don't know, it's not as late as it is now to debut, but back in the day, like when I was coming through, a lot of kids in my position were debuting at like 18, 19, 20, and 23 years old is probably looking back like, far out, you're a bit older to make the NRL debut. Like,
yeah.
But, you know, it's probably the best thing that happened to me. It's made me work harder and love what I do a little bit more than, because I had to go on the grind and work the normal and then go in the arvos and train and get on that sort of grind. So
bloody hell,
I appreciate what I do now a lot.
Well, you must, because, I mean, I work in showbiz and I know how it is sometimes to watch other people around you, especially when you're starting out, getting access to things that you don't have access to. And it's really hard to not be fixated on what other people are doing and what they've got, but to keep an eye on your own game. How did you learn to do that?
Well, it took a while. Like, I was pretty big on focusing on the uncontrollables. Like, I was thinking about players I was playing against in under 20s and under 18s and thinking, far out, I reckon I'm just as good as them.
Yeah,
and
right.
Some maybe I thought I was better than, possibly, like, and now we're playing first grade and now
I think it's quite likely you were better than them, by the way, knowing what we know now.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I don't think that's immodest. You probably were, but no one was recognising that.
Yeah,
then.
that's right. And I was just like so hung up on the fact that this person's getting signed by this club, this person's already played 20 first grade games, and I'm sitting in Mackay with no NRL contract, wanting to ring my parents up and just go home and just be the local A grade star, you know. So it took me a long time to figure out that I needed to control what I can control, and that's just worrying about me rocking up the training every single day. I was teacher aiding at the time and just rocking up and giving the best version of myself to those kids.
So you were working at a primary school?
Yep, I was working at a primary school.
So everything was conspiring to kind of keep you honest at that time?
Yeah. Even that time, like went through the depression stage and went through a really hard time. But then when I went to the school, I went to a school and worked at a school that they were in an area where it was a bit of a troubled area. I was rocking up every day, and these kids who just had a smile on their face every day to run up to me and see me walk through the gates, and they were so excited to be around me at school and call them, Mr. Hynes, look at this, I got my maths score, look at this. Like, just so excited to show me their scores or just be around me. And I was like, far out. It sort of hit home. Like, these kids have probably got some stuff going on in their own life, and they're running up with a smile on their face every day, so excited to see me. So I felt like they changed my life more than I changed theirs in that moment. And I sort of got back on the horse and really, really knuckled down on chasing the dream again.
Do you think now that you understood the role that those kids were playing for you in retrospect? Because at the time, I gather you were in a bit of a deep hole.
Yeah, I was in a deep, deep hole. And then going into the school, like, it just put things in perspective for me. And at the time, I probably didn't realise what they were doing for me. And I just noticed myself started playing good footy again. I started having a smile on my face day to day and started wanting to live my usual happy life. And the light bulb moment when I spoke about my story once, and I looked back and reflected on that time there, and I was like, wow, like, those kids don't even know what they've done for me, you know. And I'd love to go back there one day and sit down with them. They'll be probably teenagers now, or even young adults. So
yes,
yeah, it's
where would you go back to? They're not at primary school anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know. But I kept in contact with one of the kids in their family, and it was really nice just to get random messages off them every now and then, just saying they're watching me and they're cheerleading for me. So yeah, it was pretty amazing.
When you say, like, the first time you told your story, it's a heck of a story. And it's not a done story, because your story is continuing to unfold. And I think that's why so many people have responded to you, because there's many places that were of darkness, of despair, places that would be of shame sometimes. And you seem to have gone, I am going to show myself. And the world has not ended. It's like the world has risen to meet you. So you started talking about mental health when you were at what club? Was that at the Storm?
Storm, yeah. Yeah.
And they'd kind of thrown you a lifeline?
Yep, they did. I don't know, like, I just felt like the time was right, and I was sitting on the sunny coast, and because I played a bit of reserve grade while at the Storm for Sunshine Coast, and met a few guys there, and they wanted to start doing some really, like, heartfelt videos. And I was just sitting there with Harry Grant, one of my best mates, who's the captain of the Storm now, and we're just having a beer at their unit, and they were talking about who's got a cool story that we can, you know, start doing feel-good videos. And I was just sitting there going, fuck, do I say something here, you know?
I've got a bit of a story.
Yeah. And I was like, do I just do it? Like, I've played NRL by then, and I just didn't want people to think that I was telling my story to get more games or first grade, or just, I know my place. Like, there's always a pecking order in footy clubs, and, you know, like the senior players, and I was only still at the bottom of the pecking order, and I didn't want it for sympathy, and I didn't want people to think that, and I was just really caring about what other people think too much. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, Nicho, like, be true to yourself. You're someone who's very heartfelt, and you get emotional a lot, and I just wanted to inspire the next generation of kids who have gone through a similar story, or going through something that I went through, and that they can know that if I've got to the NRL, then why can't they chase their dreams, you know? And
you know, the guys that you were with then, Harry and the other guys,
yeah.
Did they know your story?
No, two of them didn't. Harry knew a little bit, but not to a certain degree.
Can you remember what you said when you decided, okay, Nicho, this is it, I'm going to speak? What did you say to them?
Look, I've been through a bit. If you wanted to start out, and they're like, oh, what do you mean? I said, oh, well, you know, my mum's been to jail. I've had a bit of depression. Like,
right.
Yeah, I didn't mention everything. I just sort of said it, and they're like, let's do it. And I was like, all right, just rip the Band-Aid off. And once that came out, then the Matty Johns show got a hold of it, and that's when that went again, you know. And I was a nervous wreck. I was so scared about the reaction I was going to get.
How's it feel, Nick? Sometimes how hard is it to sort of let that weight go sometimes? Yeah,
Sometimes it is. There's times there where I didn't feel like I could talk to anyone about anything, so I just kind of held it all in. And obviously there was a point where I was like, you know, I can't do it anymore. So it gets really tough. But like I said before, it's made me who I am.
Yeah.
Who were you scared about from? You know, these phantoms that we're scared of.
Yeah.
Nothing stronger than what we imagine.
Yeah, that's right.
But where did you think that judgment or whatever was going to come from? From the club, from fans, from your family? Where?
No, it was more my competitors against me.
Oh, okay.
Just the other NRL players and my
Yes.
teammates purely the fact because I've only played a handful of games at that point.
Yeah, right.
So I played probably 12 or whatever games. I don't forget how many I played, but I was just like so scared of them going, who is this kid? Like he's just coming to first grade and thinking he can get all this media coverage and do all this.
Right.
Like, and I didn't want them to think I was doing it for a play to get more followers or, to,
right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and I was just, that's what I was really worried about because I knew, like, I couldn't care less what, Jimmy down the road thinks. Like, I knew it was going to touch people. I knew I could help in a way. I just was so nervous that these people I play against who just was like, nah, this guy's so young and he hasn't done anything in the game, so why does he get to express himself so soon, But in saying that, it's bigger in your head. Like, they got around it, They really got around it. And I don't think I should have stressed as much as I did.
Well, no, but that's a massive thing, to go, my mum was in jail. Like, that's a huge, very unusual thing.
Yeah.
And even more of an unusual thing for someone to share it with. And so this was your story from when you were growing up in?
Umina.
Right, okay.
Yep.
So New South Wales.
Yep, Central Coast.
Yeah, right. And how was your upbringing? Like, how was your childhood? You already loved rugby league then.
Yeah, I did love it. I'm a big footy nerd. Like, my old man was a footy
Nick.
He's a footy player. He never made it to NRL, but I hear a hell of a lot how good he was. He decided to go down the party stage of his life and not worry about footy as much. And he has a wife, Lisa. So when mum was in and out of jail, I lived with them. I was very, very lucky that I had a stable home to live at when mum was off doing that in and out. And very, very grateful that I had that. Otherwise, who knows where I'd be right now. But like, I loved my upbringing. Like, even when mum came home and she got out of jail for a longer period of time when I was in year 7 and didn't go back until over the last few years.
So you were like 12?
Yeah, so from like kindergarten through to year 12, like, don't remember really mum being home much. Like, I probably remember seeing her for like maybe a couple of weeks and then she'd go back inside, So
was it drugs? Her problem was drugs?
Yeah, drugs. Yeah. She lost a partner for a truck driving accident. He fell asleep on the wheel and died. And so we were living in Maitland at the time. And then we come back to the Central Coast, and that's when she just went downhill when she lost him. And
couldn't get right.
Yeah, she just struggled for a very long time. And so that's what happened with that. And then living with Dad was good. Me and my brother lived with them. But when Mum come home, we had a lot of fun. Like, Mum was the cool mum, and she just wanted to make up for lost time, I reckon. And we're always having parties and just doing fun things. And Mum would let me and my mates out and go just be rat bags and not misbehave, but we had a bit of fun. And so I'd go week by week. So 1 week I'd spend at Mum's, 1 week I'd spend at Dad's, and my brother would just stay full time at Mum's because there's a little cabin / granny flat out the back of.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. So,
that's heaven for a boy.
Yeah. So he just loved his own. He was in high school and he was just finishing high school. So
older than you.
He was a lot. Yeah, he's 4 years older than me, and he needed his own space where I didn't want to upset Dad or Mum by staying at the one house full
it's
time.
Always very political for kids that are between 2 or more homes.
Yeah, that's right.
It really is. And I think sometimes people underestimate that pressure on kids because people love to say, oh, kids are resilient. But sometimes kids are just silent.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And I felt a bit like that. I was like, no, I'll just pack my backpack up and go to the next house and just do that week by week. And it made me who I am. Like, I have great relationships with all my best mates still, and we all still talk about the upbringing and going over to Mum's house and having a ball and just running amok because we could. And she wasn't a bad parent at all. She always gave us the best thing, done what she could to make sure we had food on the table. And even if it was sometimes we just had Cocoa Pops for dinner.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's made me have some really good life experience and know how to deal with certain things and know how to give advice out to certain kids who are going through something similar. And footy was just at the forefront of my mind the whole time. I used to sit in the front of the TV every single State of Origin, every single game on Friday nights, and love Jonathan Thurston, who played for the North Queensland Cowboys and an Indigenous fella as well. And I just wanted to be him. Like, I didn't want to be anyone else in the world other than him. And
good role model, actually.
Really good role model. Great in Indigenous communities. Give his headgear, his kick and tee up after the games. And I just never wanted to be anyone but him. And I feel like now I'm representing in the same stage as him, and I'm just trying to keep chasing his career and what he's done in the game.
So your mum found out about the Indigenous part of her heritage. Did she always know, or she found out, was it one time when she came back from jail, am I right in understanding this, that she shared it? Or
Well, she shared it more with me than she knew.
Right. She always knew?
Yeah, she always knew. Like, her dad got taken away from her when she was young, so I never got to meet him. I don't think I've ever seen a photo of him, to be honest. Like, just everything about him is lost from us. And yeah, so Mum didn't get to experience much culture in her upbringing either. And when she was in jail, like, she used to hang out with some of the Aboriginal girls in there and do some paintings and whatnot. And then she started feeling like she was more comfortable about her culture and our culture. And then, you know, when one day I asked her about it and I spoke about it, not sure the exact moment, but I forget what even made me even ask about it. But and then she said, yeah, you know, we are Aboriginal, and I loved it and I just wanted to know more. And it's hard when you grow up with a lost connection to the culture, and, you know, we didn't really get to experience much. But now I'm loving learning more, and I'm being in All-Stars camps and Indigenous rounds and just going and connecting with my culture and my people. It's amazing.
You know, the interesting thing, I mean, there's many interesting things, but that you probably don't know this, but as a mother, there's always like you've got a fear, unspoken or whatever, that you'll do something that make your children stop loving you. A lot of women are scared to discipline their kids too hard, or they want to be their best friend or whatever. It's a testament to your mum that with her flaws, which are publicly shared, and the mistakes that she made, that you love her so much. She must be an extraordinary woman.
Yeah, it actually it gets me a little bit, eh? Like, the way you say that.
And me too. It gets me.
Yeah. I have a lot of traits from my mum. Me and my mum are the same person when it comes to how emotional and how much we care about things and care about people. And I remember one time Mum and I were just walking through the city one night after we got the train back from, I don't even know what we were doing in the city, but me and her were just going around giving $5 notes to the homeless people, and I was just picking her brain about, Mum, why are these guys homeless? And that's just who we are as people. And Mum's always had all my best mates around putting food on the table for them, regardless of
Cocoa Pops.
Yeah, whatever it was, Cocoa Pops.
Whatever she had.
One week we could get a steak or whatever it was. Whatever we had, like, Mum's was the house to be at, because everyone really loved her caring nature, and she put so many more people in front of her needs than her own. And that's just what we are as the Hynes family, you know, like, that's, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Mum as a person and her caring nature. It's just she's been caught up in the wrong things at times, and she's had a way tougher upbringing than I have. And one day I reckon we'll be able to tell her story. It's a bit traumatic for her to tell at the moment, and she's been through a hell of a lot, and her past trauma probably shown in why she did some things that she did. You know, you got to undo all that trauma to move past it, and I don't think at stages in her life she moved past it. She grew up without a dad. She got bullied a lot, and yeah, I won't go into the nitty gritty part of it, which one day hopefully she will when she feels like she can. But yeah, she's just a really caring natured person, and she just loves looking out for people, and that's where I get it from.
Up next, in the tale of two nations, really, AFL players are like gods in Melbourne, and generally NRL players are barely recognised. But in Sydney, NRL players are idolised and sometimes harassed when they're in public. Nicho moved from Melbourne to Sydney and luckily reconnected with someone who changed everything for him.
The biggest thing I reckon straight away he taught me is that you're a human first before you're an athlete. If I lost, I wouldn't want to leave. I wouldn't want to go to a cafe. It's like, we brought you to the Sharks to win. Like, why aren't you winning?
We'll be back shortly.
The Cronulla halfback scored half of those points. 3 votes, which means he is your 2022 Dally medalist, Nicho Hynes.
When you won the Dally M medal, which is like part of this fairy tale. You know, like most fairy tales, there's the dark forest that you've come through.
Yep.
That was such a shining moment for you, obviously. But your first thing that you did pretty well when you got on stage was you were so pleased that your mum was there with you and you gave her a shout out.
Yeah, it's an honour. It's an honour to be here, and I got to do it with my mum tonight, who means the absolute world to me. And yeah, I can't thank her enough.
It was amazing. Like, I remember a few days or a week before it, Mum was like, who are you taking the Dally M's? And I was like, no one. And then she's like, why? You got to take someone. It's your first Dally M's. And I was like, what, you want to go? She goes, yeah, I'll go. And I was like, all right.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, okay. So Mum went to jail in 2021 and then she came out and we knew the court case
Was coming up.
And
So it was after the Dally M's.
so Dally M's the end of 2022. The
Right,
court
yeah.
case was coming up in January.
Oh.
No one else knew. Only our family knew that it was coming up. And she said, well, I'm not going to walk the red carpet with you. Like, we don't want to get photos. And we just didn't want the media
And
getting a
also
hold
that
of
it would look like she's being glib or something or living a high life when this serious.
Yeah, that's right. We just didn't want any photos or traction towards her at any point. And when I won it, when I did thank her and I was glad that she was there and then the emotions that the camera panned to her, like,
She looked beautiful.
yeah, she did look great.
That was the first time I'd seen her, and I was surprised by also how young she is.
Yeah, she does look pretty young, actually.
Yeah.
And the
Julie,
journos,
by the way,
Julie. The journos were asking, like, can we interview Mum? Can she come over and interview? And I was like, no. Like, they were just like so skeptical, like, why? Why can't we talk to her? And just, respect what I say. Like, we just don't want to talk about it right now. And because they didn't know at all, and Mum just didn't want to be anywhere near it. But so it was awesome to have her there. Like, I'm really, really glad that she asked me that day about who am I going to take, because it was such a moment that I'll look back on one day and be like, far out, Mum, like when I won the best player of the year and that.
With a record like score points.
Yeah, I got lucky there, I think. But yeah, it was an amazing night and to see how emotional she got, and because she doesn't know much about footy. Like, she's really great on, I come home from training and whatever, and like she just asks how my day was, but she knows that when I'm home I don't really want to talk much footy, and because everyone else in the world, she can tell
how you're traveling.
Yeah, she can,
but doesn't want to get bogged down in the specifics.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you do at training today?
Yeah. She really doesn't care, and not because she doesn't care, but she doesn't need to know, and she knows everyone else in the world talks to me about footy, and she just doesn't, and it's mad. I can go home and have a conversation with Mum and about anything but footy, and it's
and because
awesome.
she lives with you now.
Yeah, she lives with me now. Yeah, she lives in the granny flat at the back. So
yeah, right. So she's playing the role that your brother Wade used to play when you were younger.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking after her now. It's awesome to come home.
How's she going?
She's going great. Yeah, she still has up and down moments where it's hard. Like, it's a new lifestyle for her. She's on the straight now. She's great. Like, in the aspect of not wanting to ever go back anywhere near a prison cell, and she's enjoying life with my dog, and like, it's just really pleasing to walk out the back and just see her doing her artwork and how invested she is in her artwork, and we'll hopefully try and build a company for her selling her Indigenous artwork, which would be really nice. But it makes me smile knowing that, like, back in the day when I was growing up, she was looking after me, and now it's just reverse roles. I built my life the way I wanted to build it so I can look after her, and I'm happy to do it.
Well, that is quite a life that you've built.
Yeah.
Also, you did this mad thing, right? When you were playing for the Melbourne Storm, it's one thing to be an NRL player in Melbourne, because I gather, like, no one really knows.
Yeah.
So you have the gift of anonymity. But then you were playing for Cronulla and you bought a house in Cronulla.
Yep.
Like, that's madness. Because, like, how are your days there when you were in Cronulla? Are you still there?
I'm in Caringbah, which is just 5 minutes back from Cronulla.
Right. But you're in the thick of it.
I was in the thick of it, yeah.
And how is it when you walk around Cronulla?
It's pretty crazy. Like,
yeah.
When I first moved there, it was great. Like, everyone was welcoming me, so
Sure.
loving. It was awesome, and still great. Like, they still want to talk to me and
of course.
check in, and like, they're awesome. It's great. Like, what I get a little bit annoyed about sometimes is like when I'm walking down a busy street or in the mall and get a lot of eyes to just stare, or they get their phones out and film, and it's just like, just come say hello,
Yeah. But people think that they can't say hello.
Yeah.
And also, you've got to remember that there's only one of you, Nicho Hynes, and there's like thousands of passionate Cronulla supporters.
Where there is, and like, if that's all I got to complain about, then I'm having a pretty good life, aren't I? And they're all awesome. Like, I'm pretty lucky that I'm pretty loved by loyal fans, and I haven't copped that much as of yet, but I'm just grateful that they all support me and they back me to the hills.
I was saying earlier that you've been honoured and you've been humbled. One of those times was with the Origin last year.
Yep.
Tell me what happened then, where you were selected and you played the first week.
Yeah, so I've been around the Origin arena for a few years now. So the last couple of years before last year, 21 and 22, I was like 18th man. So 18th man warms up, sits on the bench in case of a couple head knocks and whatever. So I'm in and around the squad. I just didn't get a game for.
You're not hoping for the head knocks, but if the head knocks happen to happen,
I have to be ready and ready to go. Which I was loving, but there was a time when I was like, I'm ready to play now. I'm sick of being 18th man. And last year I got the call and I was in the 17, so I was on the bench, but actually playing this game. And it was happy days. Like I got the call and I was at the highest of highs, and then a week and a half later I'm at the lowest of lows because I got put out there about 9 minutes to go and started off all right. And then there was this one moment where I just missed a tackle on Kevin Munster and he made a line break, passed it off, and they went and scored. And we were winning like 14-12 or something at the time. Yeah, and I do blame myself for that loss, for the game one loss. Could have it been different? Would have we won the game if I didn't miss that tackle? Probably. Could have they went and still scored a try at some point with the rest of the game to go? Probably, maybe. I don't know. I will never be able to answer that. But I held on to that for a month or so, I reckon. It's the first time I've ever faced adversity in my rugby league career. I've faced adversity a lot off the field, but on field, I've had a pretty smooth sailing ride since I got into first grade. When I started the Storm, we were winning games. I didn't lose. I only lost 5 games in my 3 years at the Storm. Went to a premiership, 19-game win streak one year before I come to Sharks. And my first year at the Sharks, we come second. We only lost a couple of games that year. And although we didn't win the finals, but I've just been on an upward trajectory like that for a while, and then the Origin happened and just went.
How did you lift yourself up out of that?
I didn't for a while. I tried to go into games so we played that Wednesday, and then Saturday night we played again for the Sharks.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I'm happy because I get to brush that, come play for the Sharks, and I'm just going to show everyone that I'm going to prove them all wrong. I'm going to prove wrong that I'm not that player that happened that night. And then I'm going to go out and beat this. Broncos were coming first at the time. So I was like, here we go. This is the perfect game. Bunch of Queenslanders again. Let's go. And started off well the first half. Set a couple tries up. Was going really, really well. Second half just didn't happen for us, and probably made a couple of execution errors where I needed to be better at. And then the next week we played against Melbourne, and Melbourne got flogged by 50 or 60. And that was probably my worst game I've ever played in my career. And I've held on to that for a while. And I was sort of just trying to go, righto boys, get on my back, let's go and follow me, rather than using my teammates to help me get through them moments. And I just wanted to go do it all myself and just shut up everyone, really. And it's just not how it is when you're in a team sport. Like no, it's not. And I learned a hard lesson then.
So now you have is it a mental coach or is that what they're called?
Mental mindset coach.
Yeah, right. Mindset coach,
yeah.
mindset. Because to say you've got a mental coach, is it? So was that around the time where you decided to get them on board? What I'm curious about is how self-aware you are, and you have to be, of what you actually need to go get it.
Yeah, I didn't hire him then. I hired him when I was leaving the Storm.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's a guy from the Central Coast that I played a bit of footy with. We were mates, and then we sort of went our own direction. He lived in Terrigal, in New Minor, and then I ran into him on my NRL debut on the Central Coast. He was just walking with his girlfriend past, and I bumped into him on my morning swim, and then we sort of rekindled our relationship. And I knew leaving the Melbourne Storm that coming to Sydney, the media was going to be huge. Social media, fans, it's just going to be a whole nother level that I haven't experienced in Melbourne. Yeah. So I was and I was a serial overthinker, big stress head, worry wart. I just used to go to bed stressing over the stupidest shit. And
like what?
I don't know, just what people are thinking about me, what the social media is saying about me, or news articles, or just anything in life, just random ass stuff. I'd go to bed and just worry about just silly stuff. And even off field, I can't even explain what I was stressing about, but my mates would just say you're the ultimate head noiser.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They just everyone knows it. And then I was like, well, I want to be able to go to bed every night. I want to be able to go to training every day like I'm a 10-year-old kid just loving life and loving my footy. And so I was like, you know what? I need someone to fix my mind. And listened to a few podcasts, Dan Carter's performance podcast. I watched his doco, and they spoke about the All Blacks had a mindset coach to help them out through it all. And they were just saying there's only so many weights you can lift in a gym and so many hours you can spend on the field. Everyone does that. It's just your mind's always the one that goes first,
the mind.
Yeah, and I was so intrigued.
The mind is so powerful, and I feel like sometimes we spend, or I do, trying to work out how to control the mind, but for a certain extent you have to just go with it.
Yep.
What tools did you learn? What did he teach you that then opened you up to taking those things on to the teams that you went with, where you started to share things with your teammates and encourage them to also share whatever was going on with them and mental health? And
the biggest thing I reckon straight away he taught me is that you're a human first before you're an athlete. And like I was someone, if I lost, I wouldn't want to leave. I wouldn't want to go to a cafe because I'm thinking like they're all
that
like,
everyone cares.
It's like, we brought you to the Sharks to win. Like, why aren't you winning, sort of thing. That was after my first game for the Sharks. We lost, and then he was like, why should an 80-minute game of rugby league define you as a human? And then I was sort of like, fuck, yeah, you're right. Like, why should I not go down to the beach because I enjoy the beach, or go to a cafe because I like going to a cafe, purely the fact that I lost a game of footy? Like, what's that really mean in the grand scheme of things of life? Just a game of rugby league. It's just a game. And then once I started to realise like my happiness as a human first is way more important than playing a good game of rugby league, I started getting better at leadership, and I started doing that breath work. When I said before, I was really big on controlling the uncontrollables, and I started controlling again all the things I could control, you know, and I can control having a daily routine. I can get up and journal and write my intentions and do some breath work, go for a swim, walk my dog, whatever it is. So I set up a good routine for my daily routine, and it's really become on top of not sweating the small stuff and just controlling what I can control, being a good human, being a good athlete, and then going and delivering that. And I felt like I'd done that pretty well.
Still to come, Nicho wasn't focused on his mum's court case because he didn't think she'd end up in jail.
Mum was always telling me that I was going to get thrown out of court. It's all good. Going to get a slap on the wrist. Like, I remember just saying, Mum, are you going to get jail time for this? And she was like, no.
Then his world turned on its head. Stay with us.
did you rely on that, you know, the period that you referred to before between the Dally M with your mum there and knowing that this court case was coming up in January, I think you said, and no one else knew? How in that time do you go about what you have to do and the work you have to do while you've got this ominous thing hanging over you? Like, how did you do that mental discipline? And your mum, could you share techniques with her?
No, not really. Like, to be honest, I actually forgot about the court case majority of that year.
Right.
Yeah, because mum was always telling me that I was going to get thrown out of court. It's all good. I was going to get a slap on the wrist or whatever it is. Like, I remember just saying, Mum, are you going to get jail time for this? And she was like, no, they don't have enough evidence. Like, I didn't do it, Nicho. I honestly didn't do it, and I wasn't a part of it.
Which, by the way, for context for people who might not know, she had a terrible incident where her housemate died.
Oh, it wasn't a housemate. It
wasn't that?
It was a guy. Yeah, it was that. But our guy, Luke, who grew up with us, he's one of my brother's best mates, and he didn't have a great home life, and he was pretty much living in our house his whole life.
Right.
And he brought the drugs to my mum's house. He wanted to do whatever he had to do with it to get rid of it, and it just so happened to be at mum's house. And then he overdosed on because he was making the drugs, and you know, mum wasn't a part of it. Like, I hand on heart say she wasn't a part of it. It just happened to be at her house. So obviously he died, and then they had to do the investigating, and they tried to put it all on mum. And yeah, so I was like,
so she thought that was going to be
nothing. It was just, you know, she just thought it was, you know, it was at my house. That's all that was, Nicho. Like, I wasn't a part of it. Like, and I knew I believed her, and I still believe her. Like, it's been proven, like, she wasn't a part of it. It was just happened at her house, and she knowingly gave the house. That's what the charges ended up being, you know.
But she was also quite naive in thinking that it would just be a slap on the wrist or whatever it was going to be.
Yeah, so she didn't think it was going to get to what it did.
So you didn't realise either how significant it was going to be.
Yeah, I didn't at all. And I was just, I don't know, I was just enjoying life in Cronulla, and mum was at my brother's house in Yamina at the time, so I put myself away from it, you know, like I didn't talk about it with them. Like, they respected my boundary of that. This is my first year at the Sharks. Let me play footy, and I don't want to know. If you're just talking about it, I don't want to know. Let me get through the end of the year, and that's when I can get involved. They were pretty good at that. And I sort of did, yeah. Like I said, I forgot about it a little bit. And then come to the end of the year after the Dally M, I went, travelled, came back, and then the preseason started again, and I was like, fuck, this is getting close.
Yeah.
This is getting really close. And I was like so confident that I've built that much resilience. I've worked so hard on my mental. I've worked really hard with my mindset guy that, it's a challenge now. I've faced that much shit in my life. Like, that's a challenge. Let's do what we can to work through it. And if it comes at me head on, let's face it head on and deal with it. And let's use all the tools that I've been using to face it. And I thought I was a lot stronger and tougher than I was when the court case came. It dropped me like a sack of potatoes, to be honest. Yeah.
This wasn't the end of my conversation with Nicho. He opened up about one of the toughest times in his life. The media found out about his mum's court case and got hold of police footage.
She was just sitting there just like so vulnerable, and the police are sitting there asking her questions, and that broke me. It really, really broke my heart to see my mum in that situation and how rattled she was.
He and his brother Wade fought for their mum in court, appealing directly to the judge.
He goes, are you willing to look after her for the 2 years that if she gets this, she has to live with you for 2 years? Are you able to do that? I said, hey, I'm able to do that for the rest of my life. I'll be looking after the rest of my life. I have to.
And also in part 2 of my conversation with Nicho, he tells me about a time he confronted and uplifted a room of men.
I thought after that moment, because I was so nervous to do it, this is the impact that I can have on just being authentic and being my emotional self of wanting to help others.
And what he's learnt about reaching out to mates when they're struggling.
I'd rather be the one annoying them than backing away. Something happens and you go, fuck, I wish I had said something.
To listen to part 2 of my interview with Nicho, just click the link in our show notes. We'll also put up a link to the podcast Nicho co-hosts, When We Grow Up. The executive producers of No Filter are Kimberly Bradish and Mia Freedman, with sound production by Leah Porges. And I'm Kate Langbroek. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.